Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back here again today with you on this Astrology Human Design Gene Keys channel, a heart-led space of love and community. And today I wanted to offer another cozy little video where I talk a little bit about the Jupiter return, and I want to talk today about the experiences that I've had in my last Jupiter return, which happened about 12 years ago. And I feel like this is something that not a lot of astrologers actually talk about. I feel like there are lots of advice that's being given out there about, what to do and what the Jupiter return means for you. But I think that one of the best ways to learn is by learning from experience. And this video that I'm making for you guys is going to be an invitation into inquiring into your own personal life experience and doing that, reflecting that from my own life experience. So I think this is going to be really, really fun. And I'm going to also offer a little bit of insight into what I'm currently going through right now as well in this particular Jupiter return cycle of Jupiter in Gemini. But it's only been like a month or so that Jupiter is in Gemini. So I don't have a lot to offer at this point, but what I want to offer most is going to be the last return cycle. So my last Jupiter return cycle, that was from, I've got the dates written here, so I'm going to be looking at my phone from time to time. So my Jupiter is about 11 degrees of Gemini. So it's 11 degrees, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that of Gemini. It's in the first house. It's in Gene Key 35. And here I've got the exact date that this last happened was August of 2012. And I don't have at that time, I didn't particularly feel like there was an event that was very significant, and of course I can't remember exactly what's going on, but at that time I was sort of looking for a new job. So I remember that because I was looking through my old emails to really get like the actual events that was happening there. So I was working as a TV news reporter at this TV station, which is called TAN Network. But it actually stands for Thai ASEAN News Network. And the channel was going through a rough patch and I decided to leave. So I was searching for a new job. And that was also the year that I had a new job, and I worked at a magazine. That's a new job that I found. I worked at as a magazine columnist. But that particular period, I was still searching. At first, I thought that was the time when my ex-boyfriend at that time broke up with me. Because I remember we broke up that particular year, and I remember it was like a blessing in disguise. But it didn't happen exactly on that date. It actually happened when Jupiter was retrograding in Gemini, which was in the end of November to the beginning of December of 2012. When Jupiter was retrograding in Gemini during that time, that was when my boyfriend at the time broke up with me. And that was a really significant part of my evolution, my growth, because I went through a really difficult heartbreak. And I remember that I wrote him letters and things, but I never really sent it. But after that particular breakup, and I was going through, this really huge heartbreak, my sister told me, why don't you go and travel alone by yourself? And I had never traveled alone by myself ever before. The thing is, that relationship was somewhat of a very karmic relationship. I would say toxic, the negative form of karmic relationship where it was also toxic and codependent. And my codependent patterns were definitely showing up in a sense that I was going to move halfway across the world to be with him because he was going to move abroad. And I didn't really have a sense of purpose and direction for my own life and what I wanted to do. And so I was like, I'll just do anything to be with you. I was very codependent. But when my sister said this to me, I thought for the very first time, I've never traveled alone, so let's do it. Let's try it and see how it turns out. So I booked a ticket. It was in December of that year. So just a little bit after the retrograde finished and Jupiter started going direct again, that I booked a ticket to Nepal, and I traveled for the very first time by myself to Nepal, and I think I was there for a little over a week. And I had the most amazing feeling and experience. It was a feeling of independence and freedom, and that I had a whole world in front of me. Not only that, but when I was on that trip, I actually ran into a guy, and we had then we had a coffee together and things like that. And the funny thing was that his birthday was actually the same birthday as the ex that I just broken up with, except different year, of course, but it was the exact same day. And to me, I took that as a sign from the universe that there is potential in this person, but maybe there's also other people in the world for you as well. And maybe this is his potential when he's going to be, 10 years from now. But it's, whether it is for me to explore or not, it's not for me to explore right now. And that there were just other people that I will come across somebody who will, make me happy again. Let's just put it that way at that time. And so after coming back from Nepal, I actually wrote an article about my trip there in the magazine that I also worked in, but everything changed. My world got bigger. My world was not just about that guy and that relationship and the clinginess and the codependency anymore. I began to think for myself, I want to travel. And of course, Jupiter, being the planet that has to do with overseas travels and expansion and different cultures, that made a lot of sense that my Jupiter return, being Jupiter in the first house, would be the time when I would begin to travel by myself and actually gain a sense of independence and feeling free from the constraints of that relationship. It was like a blessing in disguise because it allowed me to change my life. The next time that Jupiter was conjunct my natal Jupiter was from mid-March to the beginning of April. And during that time was when I began my English teacher training program. So I was training and learning to be an English teacher because I wanted to travel the world and live in different places in the world. And I love to teach. So I thought, hey, this would be like a new experience for me. So I took a course and I got a certificate. And that was the time that I was studying. So here we have Jupiter and Gemini, taking on a new course, learning something new, becoming a teacher, which is very Jupiterian by nature, right? And so after that certificate finished, I took a little trip before I landed my first job as an English teacher. It was around April of 2013. So in April to May, I landed in Istanbul in Turkey. So I had my second solo trip. It was 3 weeks in Turkey and I had the most amazing experiences there too. I saw the world, I met new people. And and I think a lot changed within me, like my mindset, Jupiter in Gemini, the Gemini being the sign of the mind, right? My mindset expanded, my perspective of life and what was possible and the possibilities that were available in the world. All of this was different and was more broad. I broadened my mind and in terms of what I think is possible for myself. Before all of this, before all these travel experiences, before the breakup, I was in a completely different way of viewing the world and a different mindset and way of seeing the world, I could only see the world within the social circle that I had. I could only see the world and the path that my life was going to take based on the first thought that came up. And the first thought that came up is always going to be a thought where it's not really your thought. It's always going to be a thought where it's like, this is probably what your parents would have done. This is probably what you were taught by your family. And it may not totally be true to who you are. And so my mind expanded beyond that, beyond the first thought that I had, right? So it was a very, very interesting time in my life. Jupiter moved to conjunct my ascendant at about 26 degrees of Gemini on the 11th of June 2013, and that was when I had already just moved to Malaysia to begin my first English teaching job. And then, yeah, that's when everything sort of just started, you could say. And it felt like when Jupiter then came on the ascendant was actually the new beginning. And before all of that was the mindset that had to shift before I could fully step into this new beginning. And so after all of these experiences, I was thinking to myself, like, what's the theme here? Like, what am I actually learning? And I came to this realization that because it's Jupiter in Gemini in the first house, that there is a lot of self-confidence that is being built within me during those years. And everything that has happened is building on my self-confidence. And if you have Jupiter in the first house, or maybe you have Jupiter in Gemini in the first house like I do, there is going to be that theme where the first house being the house of the self, and Jupiter is a sign that is about, Jupiter is a confident sign. It's it's a personality that's generous and giving and secure in a sense. And so Jupiter is going to bring that theme, if you have Jupiter in the first house, of building your self-confidence throughout your life. And when you're having your Jupiter return, the experiences that you will be experiencing are going to bring those themes of like, how can you become a more confident person? I was also trying to think and reconsider of other things that would have lasted that 12-year cycle, but nothing really sparked the themes of the Jupiter return as much as it being really about confidence and the wisdom of what my body was capable of, because the first house is the body, right? And the wisdom that I gained during that cycle was that my body was capable of actually having the power to move, to relocate, to physically get out of Thailand and to see the world. And that was a very fun time in my 20s to experience my body doing this and this kind of a wisdom. And so now that I just turned 35 this year and Jupiter return is happening again. This is going to be another cycle. And already yesterday, I started my first hypnotherapy session. And I'm already sensing into the themes that are coming up about the wisdom of my body. And this year, so what was coming up with the hypnotherapy session yesterday was the first session. It was an intake, and it felt more like a therapy session at that point. But there were lots of themes coming up about how safe do I feel in my body. And this is something that I'm going to be working on for the next weeks or months, is feeling safer in my body, because I didn't really grow up in a home with a family and an environment that actually made me feel safe. And I know that my parents were doing their best that they could. But yeah, we're humans, and so we do make mistakes here and there. And reparenting myself in terms of making myself feel safe in my body is what I'm working with currently with my therapist. When does my body feel safe? When is my body in a fight or flight mode? When is it in a freeze mode? And really tuning into that. It feels very, very Jupiter in the first house, getting the wisdom of the body in that sense. And I think that this can really give me a new level of freedom. And, my therapist was asking me yesterday, like, what do you want to achieve throughout our sessions? And I was coming up with various different things. And he said, well, if you could put it in like a positive way, what would the feeling be like that you want to achieve at the end of our sessions? And I said, I want to feel free. And that just came like intuitively. And so I felt like the first cycle not the first, that was the second cycle of my Jupiter return when I was 24, right? Was happening in my 20s and the early part of my 30s, was about me learning the actual freedom of the physical freedom of the body. But, if you are free to do and go and live wherever you want to go and be, but there's something inside that is still not free. And that is stemming from a different level of the body. The somatic part of the body, the emotional part of the body, the energetic part that's still inside the body is still not free, then that's not true freedom, right? But there's steps to it. Of course, first like what I learned was just the physical part of actually being able to be free. But now I also have to learn to actually feel free from the inside. And it's going to be a very interesting journey. I can already feel it. And of course, I'm still going to be physically free. I'm still going to be traveling. There are travel plans coming up, and I can't wait to take you guys with me on some of the travel plans that I have this year. But at the same time, what I'm experiencing, some of the struggles that's been coming up for me as well is, and that's what we discussed yesterday in my therapy session, is also how I sometimes have a self-inflicting habit. Like, things can be going very well in my life, as well as could be, but I would feel guilty, or I would feel ashamed of it. Why can't I fully feel free and happy, right? There's still something there within maybe it's my mindset, maybe it's the conditioning of the body that is still trying to protect me, trying to make me feel safe. And so I'm not entirely free yet. And so this journey of freedom is going to be very interesting, and I will keep you guys up to date. If any of you guys out there are experiencing a Jupiter return or will be experiencing a Jupiter return, because Jupiter will be going into Cancer next year. So if you have Jupiter in Cancer, you'll be experiencing that. And then Jupiter in Leo and Jupiter in Virgo. Or if you just had a Jupiter return and you want to offer some of your reflections on there, do leave it in the comments below. I love hearing them. And if you like this video, please feel free to give me a super thanks. I would really, really appreciate it, because it takes a lot of time to make these videos, to come up with topics, to edit them. And so I really appreciate all the support out there if you guys feel like you like the videos that I make. And lastly, I just want to say to you guys, if you are experiencing a Jupiter return or will be or just have, is to really reconsider the different levels of freedom. And I think that is really, because Jupiter is that planet that does have to do with freedom, right? But there's so many different layers to it. Freedom is not just about being able to do what you want to do. That is a part of it. But other parts of freedom is about how can you what is your mindset towards your limitations? That is also freedom. If you still feel free under certain limitations, then you are free. Not to say that you have to put yourself at a limitation, but there are certain things that we cannot control. And how can you still feel free in that? Like external circumstances, right? Because what I was experiencing was that although I'm living a very blessed life, a life that I want to live, but I'm still affected by the criticisms of the people around me or the judgments of people around me, although that shouldn't matter. I should be happy with the life I'm living. And that is the internal state of freedom that I need to be cultivating, so that I'm not, stuck in as a victim of the voices externally. So those are limitations in terms of I can't change the people that are around me. I can't change what they say to me. I can't change I can't say to them, don't judge me, don't criticize me. It doesn't really work that way. But I can change myself and that the way that I view things and my perspective and my mindset and my conditioning inside there. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that it was something that you can take away from this. And if you're going through a Jupiter return, just map the dates. Look at, you can go to astroseek.com. I like using AstroSeek because, it's free for you guys, but you can also see the transits when they by the minute. You can get the transits to move by the minute. And you want to know that your Jupiter return happens when Jupiter is back in the sign that the Jupiter is in your natal chart. So if Jupiter is in Gemini, like mine, then your Jupiter return happens the moment that Jupiter moves into Gemini. And you can check that on astroseek.com, or just type into Google and it will tell you. But you also want to check, when Jupiter, the transiting Jupiter, is exactly conjunct your natal Jupiter, because that is going to be the most intense time for the return. That is when the energy is at its peak. But you also want to check, if you have other planets in Gemini. I have Mercury and also Ascendant in Gemini. So you want to check, if Jupiter is going to be conjuncting your Ascendant. If you have an Ascendant, Midheaven, IC, Descendant, or maybe any planets that you might have as well there in that particular Jupiter sign, whether it's Gemini, Virgo, Leo, whatever it might be. So check those particular conjunctions, and any exact oppositions will also be felt very strongly. Like if you have planets in Sagittarius, or Jupiter isn't just a Sagittarius, maybe there's just Jupiter opposition happening, that could also feel very powerful too. Ooh, Jupiter opposition, maybe another video on that one, because a lot happened when Jupiter was in Sagittarius. But yeah, maybe if you guys want to know a little bit about that, just let me know, and I can also make a video on Jupiter oppositions. But yes, yeah, I think it's going to be it for this video today. I hope that you guys enjoy it. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Comment below, of course, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And I'm sending you guys so much love today and a beautiful summer. I'm currently wearing today a blouse by Daughters of India. It's so beautiful. If you look at the patterns, it's handmade from India, sustainable and ethical. So I'm going to leave a link in the description box below if you guys are interested to check out some of their other products. Bye!